Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Hey guys, guess who's back today? Angela DeCrane and Tammy Janelle, or as I lovingly refer to them as just Ange and Tam. As a reminder, Ange is a trained psychotherapist currently completing her doctorate in integral and transpersonal psychology, and she's researching the healing potential of psychedelic medications. Ange is also the primary caregiver for one of my favorite dogs in the whole world, Aggie. Aggie is a therapy dog, and she and I have become very close. So, Ange is pretty important in that role too. Tam is an intuitive healer who's been working in the healing arts for over 30 years. She has a profound understanding of the consequences of being disconnected from ourselves and its impact on our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. She's also developed this unique 7-step method for soul-led living called the Devoted Soul Method, where she offers immersive group retreats and individual coaching. So when Tam and Ange come together, it's pretty special, you guys. If you get a chance to work with them both, everything just seems to click into place. I have been doing this with the two of them, so I know what I'm talking about. Tam and Ange are two psychedelic integration specialists whose distinct worlds, psychic healing, mediumship, and the translation and stewardship of soul stories on one hand, and clinical psychology, transpersonal research, and attachment-informed healing on the other, converge to offer something genuinely rare in the landscape of expanded states work. At the heart of their work is a profound belief that every person deserves to live an exceptional human experience, and that with the right support, the transformation made possible through expanded states can become the foundation for exactly that. Tam and Ange believe that the most transformative support comes from multiple directions at once, where soul wisdom and clinical rigor, story, and structure, the seen and unseen, are all welcomed in. Okay, so today we're talking about IFS therapy, internal family systems, and I have now had some IFS therapy myself, so I talk a little bit about my experience with my parts, as you'll come to learn about, and so do Tam and Ange. We all kind of share some personal experiences and the logistics of this whole IFS therapy. All right, let's get in there. Hey guys, thanks for coming back. You guys, Tam and Ange are back. If you don't remember them, they're episode 52 and 53. If you have not listened, of course you have to go back and listen, because we're going to dive deeper into some of the things we talked about there. And Jen's going to tell you more about her experience in some of these things. So today's episode, we're talking about IFS, which is internal family systems, or as Jen likes to call it, internal fucking self. Oh, we're gonna get more into the logistics of it. Since that episode, I have done actual IFS therapy myself. I have more insight now. So I want to dig more into this because I think it lines up perfectly with our spiritual journeys, especially in midlife. Let's get into it. IFS. When you hear internal family systems, I immediately thought I was going to sit down and talk about my relationships with my family. Oh, I'm going to be sitting talking about my mom and my dad and my husband. No, that's not the family we're talking about, is it? And what are we talking about?
I remember feeling the same way when I was first introduced to IFS, like early in my career, like 20 years ago. And I remember the person who introduced me, she was certified in it. And she said, Ange, you should consider, as you're building your practice here, you should consider getting certified. I'm like, I don't want to do family therapy.
Right.
And I was just like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm carrying on, But when I really came to it and really.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with family therapy. You're not bringing your family in to sit down and chit chat. No. This has nothing to do with anything external at all.
Yeah.
Am I right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because the family we're talking about is our internal family, which is what they call parts.
Yeah.
Our parts. We've all seen the show with the multiple personality disorder people, right? Where all of a sudden they're a whole different person and they're, okay. This is like real though. We all have multiple personality disorder. I hate to break it to you. Inside of our minds, right? We don't turn into whole different people, but we kind of do. Because when a certain part of our personality or our self comes out, we act a certain way.
Yeah.
let's start with the basics here. Self. What do we mean essentially when we say self?
So in the model, we talk about self as self with a capital S. So your self would be characterized in IFS by what are called the 8 C's of self-energy. And I won't remember them all in this exact moment, but they're qualities like compassion, curiosity, calm, connection. And your self-energy, like the intention of this model is to assist us in becoming more connected to these qualities of ourselves so that we are able to lead our lives from this place of a calm, confident, connected space. I think it's helpful to start by acknowledging that, self is not something that you develop or create. It's already there. You are born. We all come in with our self-energy already present for us. What happens is through life, through all sorts of things, difficulties, traumas, whatever, different parts of us will start to take over. They take on these jobs, they take on these roles, and they kind of can disconnect us from that truth of who we are, that self-energy. So self is like our, in our human experience, it's like the truest form of our humanness. It doesn't have any agenda. There's no agenda when it comes to self-energy. That's one of the ways that you can understand when you're maybe doing your own work or when, as a therapist who's utilizing this model, when there is a voice in the room that has an agenda, that's trying to do something, even when it's good. It doesn't have to be anything negative to indicate that this is a part that we have here. But self-energy doesn't have agenda. Self-energy it's a centered aspect. The feeling of it is a very centered feeling.
Okay. So Tam, is spiritually speaking, are we talking higher self here? What's the difference between when we say my highest self or myself? Is there, spiritually, what do you feel self is?
I mean, I think Ange and I have gone through this a lot because IFS in and of itself is very spiritual. And the way that I describe self is self to me is not the same as spirit, as your higher self, my spirit. It is not the same, but it's close. And even further away is soul. That's the way that I think about it.
Okay.
So self for me in my work is like the key holder. Once you can access that self energy and understand your parts really well, and your parts become your allies, your self energy is then directly connected to your higher self, or what I might call my spiritual essence.
Okay.
And then even further to soul.
So this feels like foundational work then.
Foundational
If
work.
we're going to want to connect with our higher selves, our soul, everything, we're going to have to get ourself, our human self, under control.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing. All right. So this is foundational work, which is what we're doing in these awakenings, right? Okay. So we've got ourself, right? That's supposed to be in control, but is not. But for me, I'm speaking for myself, you guys. Then we have our parts. We keep saying this word part.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what these parts are. What are these parts?
So we're all also born with parts. It's speculation, right? These are theories, right? But the theory indicates that we come in with self-energy, with parts of ourselves that are ready to get into life with us and help us out, And so they come with us. We've already got them. We're coming in with this little family.
So we're not developing parts.
Sometimes
you might
are.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're also just born with the parts we need to survive this life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So there are a couple of different categories, types of parts. So there are what are called protector parts. This is one category of
Okay. What are the protectors?
The protectors are parts that we're born with. These are parts that are doing jobs for us. They're helping us out in our life.
So what would an example of a protector be?
Well, there's so many.
Maybe a common one we're all kind of just born with.
Yeah.
Because this is survival mode stuff, too.
Yes, it is. I think the easiest ones to connect to are the parts that are managers. They help us manage things in our life. For me, the first two parts I ever met for myself were a caretaker part and a logical part. So these two parts of me, I understood when I first started getting into this model. I understood that these two parts of me had been with me for such a long time, working on my behalf to like support me in my life. And so these parts of me would step in and still do. I'm now really like acquainted with them differently. And these are really cool parts of me that are able to, and I'm sure most of us have some element of these managers, you know, some sort of like, you know, logical, analytical aspect of us that helps us in our day to day, that can, you know, bring us up and out sometimes of like, you know, maybe situations that might overwhelm us with emotion, make it difficult to make decisions. Yeah. So those would be like some.
That would be the protectors.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest protectors, and I think if you have any trauma in your life, you probably have this protector going on too. I mean, who doesn't have trauma? So we all have it. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But is a protector that I haven't fully like named her, but she hides shit from me.
Yeah.
She hides things to protect me.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you have trauma and you're like, I don't remember. Like, I don't remember exactly what happened. I don't remember. Well, that's because one of your parts decided it was best for you not to remember that.
Totally.
So I have one of my parts that hides those things from me. She will decide what's best for me. And again, on her own, because myself is starting to control her better, but she just decided. And so things that I can't remember from my childhood and different parts is because my part, one of my protectors, is deciding, nope, we're not doing that. We're not going to think about it. I have tucked that away in a little box in your brain and you're not opening it. That's a protector, right?
Totally.
Protecting me from my own traumas.
Yes.
Right? Whether we need to or not. And then that probably brings us into, we could talk a little bit about an exile then.
Yeah. Sure.
Because a lot of times those protectors are tucking away like an exile. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us about exiles.
So exiles are like, they're characterized as the true essence of who you are. They carry the qualities of like our truest essence.
Just the quality of, you know, being happy, authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
Because,
At its
okay,
elements.
So do the exiles kind of carry some of that? What am I trying to say? Unprocessed pain, or not really? I mean, are they just our innocent selves?
Yeah, they are. But they go through our traumas with us. They, you know, these elements of us go through our lives and they experience things with us. And they are what makes them different from a protector is the exiles don't have the ability to protect themselves. So
because they're very sweet and innocent.
Yeah, it's like the innocent, vulnerable, authentic aspects of ourselves. And in the perfect world wouldn't need protection, but we don't live in a perfect world, right? So these protectors, managers, firefighters, it's another type of protector. Their job actually is to protect us by keeping these vulnerable, innocent parts of us exiled in our system, like pushed down, tucked away. Let's not let that get activated because that's big and overwhelming and our system won't know what to do with this. And often it's important to remember that like these parts of us, often these protectors develop early in life a lot of the time. So we're talking about, you know, little young parts of us that started doing these jobs at 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 years old, you know, so these parts of us kind of, when you start to do the work and you start to get in touch with them, you recognize that they often will have this like adolescent mentality. So they're operating from these very young places. And so the work assists us with connecting. The goal would be for us to get in touch with these parts of us from self-energy, from our own self-leadership, and understand what they went through. How did they get there? How did you get, dear little protector, how did you get stuck in this role that you've been doing for so long? And if you didn't have to do it anymore, what would that look like?
Right.
You know? So it's like this process of getting in connection with these parts of us that have been doing these jobs for so long, recognizing that something happened that caused them to into that role and get stuck in that role, and getting to know the part that's been exiled. You know, what is it that is carried over here under all of this that you're so afraid of feeling, that you're so afraid of experiencing? Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it does. So the firefighters to me feel like extreme protectors.
Yeah.
They aren't messing around.
They mess
right? What would a firefighter look like in reality? Would that be like for me? Would if something gets very stressful, would a firefighter be the one bringing me the box of donuts
Yeah, maybe
to
so.
soothe me?
Yeah.
Would the firefighter be the one saying you should probably start drinking alcohol right now?
Yeah.
You should
Yes.
use your vices. Like they really just want the drama to end quickly.
Yeah.
And whatever you need to end it, like put that
Yeah.
fire out right now. Do
got
it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
Super
addiction, would that
reactive.
be something you pursue if you're in addiction right now? Would it be I mean, obviously you should pursue this if you're in addiction. Doesn't matter if you're in addiction or not, you should really do this
like
work.
Understand your firefighters.
But does that feel like you
I
got
think
some
that's
serious firefighters if you're struggling with, vices, addictions?
Yeah.
And I don't just mean drugs and alcohol, like from food, like anything.
Oh, that was the original work of Dick Schwartz, right? He was working with eating disorders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Massive firefighter.
Massive firefighter energy. So it's
Right.
kind of a subcategory of your protectors. It's like a fierce protector.
It's another type. Yeah, it's a
It's a
fierce
type of
protector.
protector.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there's
got it.
firefighter and you said manager?
And managers.
And the manager, which is one who keeps you organized and moving
Yeah.
forward and like.
And those parts of us are a little more, they're not so just reactive the same way that the firefighter is like stepping in and we're taking this shit out, Our managers are, I mean, we might all even be able to identify the managers that are like allied and helping us out today. Like I'm here going through my Rolodex, remembering the information so that I can communicate it. I'm sure I have a manager helping me right now. So these are parts of us often. They're a little more, they're operating from a different place for sure.
I have a lovely manager who helps with anger, other people's anger. And she looks like Cinderella.
Oh, I love her.
And she sweeps up the anger, puts them in boxes, organizes them and categorizes them in the closet. And it always looks beautiful in the room. But she is really, really good at sweeping up other people's anger so that everything looks
okay. So
perfect.
that sounds like a benefit on the surface.
On the surface.
It feels like a benefit because you're like, if I'm feeling anger at someone, great. I love someone just to sweep it up and tuck it away because I don't want to be angry. But if we go deeper, it's a problem. It's a problem because you didn't feel that feeling. It got swept away.
Or I'm sweeping other people's anger away. Like anger directed at me or in a room. I just kind of like, it's just sweeping it up. Like, oh, that's fine.
Like, I don't care if they're angry with me.
That didn't happen.
Mm.
They're just having a bad day.
And that essentially you're bypassing the work that needed done.
Yeah, the question becomes like one of the questions in the process is, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't do that? So
you didn't sweep it out of that room.
What are you afraid would happen?
Because if you just sat in that feeling like that person's angry with me.
Yeah.
And if you sit in that, I don't know. Because then do you have to like look in the mirror? Kind of? Or do you have to just be like, that's their problem? That's how they feel about me is not my issue? Or
I think in my personal example, it was mostly related to one particular person in my family and also my husband. And so it became like no one had to take responsibility for coming into a space that I keep very sacred and beautiful and just sort of offloading their stuff all over me, where it was like, that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Where it was like, she was taking responsibility for that because she cleaned it up and she was like, oh, it's fine. Little, very Cinderella-ish, fairy tale-ish. And also it became heavy. It became heavy for me because my closet was very full of other people's anger that, had nothing to do with me really. I was just the lightning rod for the disbursement.
Feels like that connects with like empathy or something too, right? Or like absorbing other people's emotions.
Yeah, potentially.
So, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Okay, so that's one of your big protectors.
She's a manager for sure.
Oh, she's a manager.
Well, she's a protector.
Which is a protector, but she's a manager.
She's a manager because she's got it all under control.
Yeah. You got any firefighters?
Oh, yeah.
You got any firefighters over there? Girl?
Oh, yeah. She's pretty badass.
She's pretty badass. I bet she is. She's a damn firefighter.
She drives a motorcycle one-handed with a chainsaw in the other, and she's going to take it down.
Yeah, there's nothing coming for you.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. See?
Mhm.
And that's the thing I learned through some of this IFS therapy. You don't not like your parts.
Right.
Oh, I love them.
You love them all,
Yeah.
even the ones that are like a shit show.
Yeah.
You love them because they are you. I mean, we're talking about ourselves. They are you. So part of the process is to learn how to love them, and let them know you appreciate everything they're doing for you, but take a little bit more control, right?
It's like bringing them into relationship, inviting these parts of us to come into relationship with, first and foremost, our self, capital S self, and also then with the other parts, whether it's other managers, other protectors, exiles, bringing these parts into relationship so that there can be more understanding, more cooperation, more working together, the way that, a family system would ideally operate, right? Where there's a recognition, a respect for everyone and what they do and what they bring, but an understanding too. And how can we trust each other more? There's so much of the process that's about like allowing space for our parts to trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And some of our parts will do that very easily and others not so much. It can be
Because really they
process.
just essentially, like most of us, they want acknowledged.
Yeah.
They want acknowledged for the work they're doing for you.
Yeah.
And they want to feel cared for.
Yeah.
Right? And like they're a part of the team.
Yeah. And they need to feel safe enough and trusting enough to even begin to consider that the job they've been doing, the way they've been doing it, maybe they don't need to do that anymore in order to have a healthier system.
And most of those parts are very exhausted.
Yeah.
They're exhausted.
Yeah.
Because they're working really hard on your behalf.
And we're in midlife.
Yeah.
So they've been working hard for quite some
Very
time for
hard.
us.
Yep.
And they're tired. So if you think you're tired, I mean, you are. Capital S self is tired, and all the parts that have been supporting it are tired. They
Those
would like a
parts,
little
yeah.
reprieve. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I love it. Why do you guys think that during these spiritual awakenings, so many of these intense protectors and parts like get really triggered, like really start flaring up during an awakening?
Let's put some language to awakening.
Okay. So when I say awakening, when we start to become aware that something has to change in our lives, which is the parts, right? But when we start awakening to spirituality, to something higher than ourselves, to reconnect, like you said, this is kind of a go-between to get from our self, capital S, to our higher self, to our soul, as we're on that journey, that upward journey. So you're awakening to bigger things. You're wanting to see your path forward more clearly now. These are all the things that I talk about with spiritual journey, midlife, whatever age you are. So I'm just trying to assess what's going on with your parts when you're doing this. Like, are they going to be ramped up? Are the exiles going to hide harder? Like, what are we battling here during an awakening that essentially IFS is going to help with, because we're going to start nurturing these parts?
I mean, what I'm seeing when you're asking that question is like, it can come from both directions, I feel like. So my work, I'm thinking about like these, what you might consider a wake up call, a knock on the door, a calling, something's drawing you, toward change. And that is already coming from your higher self. And for me, what I understand, the way I see it, or the way I view it in my mind, is your self has the key to the door of your higher self. And then that is also then the gateway to soul. But soul can be, calling really loud, really loud, really loud. But soul doesn't have the key. Self has the key. So when you're saying all these parts are getting riled up, it's because they know that self is hearing something. You're being drawn to something different. Your parts can get a little worried, a little nervous, a little like, oh my gosh, what's happening? My job is, on the line here. What's going on? It's self-preservation in their own mind to continue to protect self. So when you are hearing a call, or you're hearing something's happening here, pay attention to holding like self sacred, learn self. And the only way to get to self sometimes is to clear the parts and to know the parts, to learn the parts so that the kindergarten class gets a little quieter. So you can hear what you are actually being called to, what you are being drawn to. The communication line becomes a little more open. So I think your question is like the parts just start to worry about their job. That's why we have to give them the opportunity. We have to understand their story. We have to understand what their job is. What are they protecting us from? And then the alchemy of it is, what do they want to be doing instead as an ally, as a consultant to move us forward closer to self, soul, spirit, etc.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense because like when I was talking about my protector that hides things from me, it would make sense that through this process, she's a little nervous about, are you going to go open those boxes?
Oh, yeah.
And then another part's going, oh God, that means I'm going to be up. You're right. If this comes out, then then my firefighter is thinking, shit, am I going to have to come in and put out this fire? Because if she opens that box, things could go poorly. And so it makes sense that they're all kind of stirred up a bit during this process, right? Which in our bodies is going to feel a lot of emotions, ups, downs. This is the doing the work part. That's why this is the doing the work, which is why I'm bringing this IFS to you, because this is so helpful when you're doing that work, when things are coming up, when we're trying to rid our bodies of old traumas, when we're trying to, get things under control and move forward. That's why this seems to work so well. And you can have all kinds of parts. You're born with some I think we make. Like for me, I don't know that I was necessarily born with it, because as I've gone back in time, and tell me with these parts, because we visualize them. We'll get into that in a minute, but we visualize them. Are they mostly children? For me, they're mostly children.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will find that a lot of our parts are young, but it is most definitely not out of the question that you may have a part that developed later in life. Yeah. This
for
just
sure.
came
It's
up,
depending on what happened.
Yeah. This is just a conversation we've had. I discovered a 22-year-old exile.
Okay. See? So they come.
Yeah.
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 There may be just even more hidden if they don't show up right away for you. The very first, if I'm remembering correctly, IFS session that I had with a child at a very specific age, when my sense of humor was born, right? And I don't know that I was born with that protector, right? But because of the situation I was in as a child, I think it became a part. It became a protector, because in a room, when I could feel that things were bad, when things were going downhill, right? For whatever reason, I brought humor, and that was my survival mode.
Yeah.
That was my protector that came and said, things feel heavy in this room. Maybe you should lighten it up. Maybe you should bring out a sense of humor. And so that was one of the first parts, because I was kind of already aware in my mind of it. So it felt natural to just hit that one up first in the first, because it felt easy to address that first, because it was like, well, clearly I know that my humor is part of survival mode, but it was going back and meeting her.
Yeah.
Right. And thanking her and loving her and saying, I don't want you to go away. You're a vital part of my life. I love you, but you know what I mean? You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You don't have to lighten every room you're in.
Yeah.
That's not your job. You can chill. You can take a nap. If a room is heavy, you can let it be heavy. You don't have to work your ass off to make everyone in the room feel better. Right? Let's just worry about our capital S self feeling better, and not everybody in the room. So when I say doing the work, like, okay, so that was a process for me, right? And you start thinking about that, and you start loving on that part. And then you'll meet another part. Or maybe sometimes you'll meet a protector in there, and you'll figure out who they're protecting. And eventually then you meet the exile that they tucked away.
That's right.
Right.
In fact, you want to know, in the processes, if we are going to ask a part of us that's been doing a protective job for us, if we're going to ask them to consider stepping down from their position, we need to know we're responsible then from that place of self-energy to understand what is it they've been protecting.
Right.
It'd be like asking the guard to leave the post, but never asking, well, what is it that you're guarding so that I can step in and be with that now?
Right. We can't take over if we don't know what.
That's right.
Yeah. The job description. Yeah. What exactly, if I'm going to ask you to step down, I got to know how to step up.
You got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the work.
You
guys, this is the work. So let's talk about the actual, because people are probably wondering what a session feels like or looks like, because it can be scary to start any kind of new therapy, right? You don't know if you're going to connect with the person.
what am I going to have to talk about? What am I going to have to reveal? I don't know. It's, therapy's nerve-wracking. That's my opinion.
I bet people share that for sure.
Especially if you're a person who doesn't openly share.
Yeah.
If you're a pretty closed book, to crack open it's a lot of work. So here's the deal. So I'll just talk about mine.
Cool.
I'll talk about my first session. You can tell me if this is like men or if Jen's just totally different. So on the drive to my first session, I was thinking, okay, of course, as my personality does, I had already listened to a podcast about IFS and I'd already researched it. Okay. I don't want to get hit with something I don't know about. So I had a little bit under my belt, but I'd never experienced any of it. Well, you're sitting down, you're chilling. And what did you ask me?
I probably asked you, like, how are you arriving today? How, like, what are you feeling anything in particular? Is there anything particular on your mind today? Just kind of getting present with how you are arriving, which is the beauty of IFS. It can be different than just kind of traditional talk therapies in that we meet in a session. You're meeting what's present. You're coming to what is present in the moment. You begin there. Yes. So it's not necessarily like, well, last session, sometimes maybe, but it's getting present with exactly how one is arriving.
Yeah, because last session we talked about this one part, we may not talk about that part again this time. We're going down a whole new path today because it's how you're feeling today.
Yes.
What's popping up in your mind today.
And you begin, like, as you move through these sessions, like if someone was to, stay in a process, you begin to understand, we call it mapping. You start to map out how these parts of us are already connected to each other, how they, their different roles in the system and how they already may be connected. So it's, it's like getting to know a big family, a big team.
Yeah.
They're
just family therapy. It's just all your multiple personalities, right? Okay, that's the fam we're talking about here.
Your own personal dysfunctional family within.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So this was Jen meeting her dysfunctional family. Yeah, internally. So for me, because you can have your eyes open or closed, because then you kind of guide. You guys don't have to work this whole thing out before you get there. Your therapist's job is to kind of guide you through this process. So you don't have to worry about having some big thing to talk about when you get there. Just how you feeling. For me, the first day, I had already started thinking about a part. What's a part? Maybe I do identify with. So my mind, I was already in a place of thinking about my humor. And so I close my eyes because the way my brain works, if my eyes are open and I see something, it will not focus. So if I see a book on Angie's shelf, my brain is going to think, have I read that book? Who wrote that book? What's that book about? I should probably buy that book. Okay. I don't want all these thoughts going on. So I close my eyes. So it's very meditative feeling for me because I'm closing my eyes. I'm just kind of trying to relax into what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would call that going inside.
Yes, for going inside. So just guide me through them, how you guided me into that. Like what kind of things were you saying to me? Because I don't remember all of them, but I remember I put my beautiful little girl in a bubble, but tell me how I got there.
Yeah. Okay. So the process of like getting connected with a part, we would utilize what are called the 6 F's. So that is the process of connecting with a part. So we just begin with the first F is feeling. What is it? What are you feeling? I probably asked you, are you feeling anything in or around your body right now? Because our parts will often, they're not just like these elements of our mind. Like they live in our body. They live in our system. So sometimes when folks are brand new to the approach, it's like, okay, hold on. Let me see. Wow, my right shoulder kind of hurts a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
But that is the way in. We go in through the body.
Okay.
What are you feeling? And then you might go a little further. Is there anything, we're just trying to make connection with a part, so is there anything maybe you're seeing in your mind's eye right now? Any thought, any memory, any visual that's coming to you? Just a couple of weeks ago, I did a session with a client who for the first time, and this person's been doing IFS for a long time, but for the first time, the part that they needed to connect with brought them scent. They had this scent arrive that was like, oh my gosh, took this person right to a place that they needed to get to. So it's this process of like first getting connected. I'm going to find my way in here by what am I feeling? Am I seeing anything? Am I smelling anything, tasting anything? You get connected in that way.
Okay. Yeah. All your senses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, then this girl popped up, and it's me at a very specific age in a very specific outfit. Like I could see her haircut. I could see her little shoes. I could see all the things. It was me. I was looking at me at a specific age, which was probably around 6. I don't know. She was young. So then what did you have me do with her?
I probably asked you next, like, well, how do you feel toward her? Assessing how we feel toward a part that we're seeing gives us a sense of how much self energy is present in the moment. So this is where we come back to like any kind of agenda, any sort of like, if there's anything other than, compassion, curiosity, I think self can show up as like, oh man, not feeling sorry for a part of us, but maybe feeling the kind of compassion that says, oh man, I'm really feeling a lot toward that part right now. I'm feeling sad about what I know about this part and what this part of me has been through. So you're starting with getting a sense of how much self energy is available in this moment to be with this part. And then we probably moved through a process. I'm remembering it a bit, Jen, like moving through a process of you had another part that was looking at her and sort of critiquing her.
Yeah, because
her.
I was initially pissed off at her.
Yes.
Which surprised me because I love a good joke. I love a good sense of humor, but I became pissed off at her because I was like, some of that shit wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so we knew that was another part. So we began a process of unblending.
Unblending.
Yeah.
Because I had to unblend the pissed off part out of myself, put her in a way so that I could talk with just my little sense of humor girl.
You got it.
Yeah. And so, so I initially was pissed off and you were like, so I had to unblend from that part.
Yeah.
That was pissed.
Yep. And so to unblend, we probably went through again, like, well, where are you feeling that right now? Let's get to her for a minute. This part that's pissed off, she's important too. Her story is important too. But in this moment, we're going to try to hang with this initial part
because self is essentially neutral.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you know that it's a part if it's feeling a big emotion.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a part. It's not your capital S self.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had to get rid of that part that was pissed off so that I could talk more with her.
Okay. I asked her to step aside.
I asked, step aside, take a break. Yeah. And so then I spent more time with her and you had me visualize her in a pretty level. That was part of the unblending. I needed to take her out of my body so that I could sit and see her.
Yeah. And this is actually just like the methodology that really we've kind of collaborated on creating in, everyone can do this modality, use this modality. Like, you can use it in many ways, I think.
Yeah.
And people have their own, bring their own ways to it. But in Tam and I's work together, it's a collaboration here where this initially came from Tam's work with the pain body. So it really actually kind of pulled from Tam's work. And you'll probably remember that what we did was we set up a bubble little outside of you so that you can be with this part of you. And we're not asking the part to go away. We're not asking it to leave, but you want to be able to like be with this part and see it from all aspects. And then we also took a moment to set up your own space so that it's just a way of kind of creating these spaces from which you're going to work, do you remember doing that?
Yeah. Just gives you that separation.
It does.
To have the conversation or whatever.
That feels very helpful in that process of unblending. When you can have this visualization, this ability to visualize asking a part of you. And that's what we do, right? We ask the part if they're willing to give us some space and just invite them to move into this bubble. We're reminding them they're not being asked to go away. They're not being pushed away. We just want to be with them a little bit differently. And if they can give us some space, then we can be with them.
Yes. So this whole time, my eyes are closed and I'm talking with my little girl and I'm not having to say everything out loud, you guys. Like you're almost meditatively in conversation with that person. And then every once in a while you'd say, what's going on? Like, will she let you come into that bubble with her? Do you feel like you could give her a hug or, so I'm being guided, but also my mind is doing what it wants to do in there, right? The therapist is guiding you, but you're doing your work, like yourself in there.
Yeah.
They're not telling you should be telling her this, tell her this, tell her that.
Yeah.
No, you don't get guided like that.
That's the beauty of the model. It's about your self-leadership. And so once you're there, once your self-energy is like online and here we go, that's the point of this work is
Yes.
you get to go now, do your work. Like you said, Jen, you don't have to say anything to your therapist, the person who's guiding. You don't have to tell them anything. If it feels like, well, no, this is a really private process and there are things that I don't want to say out loud, you don't need to.
Right.
You don't need
Right.
to.
Because you're still doing the work. Yeah. And getting there. And so after we've met our parts, what's the process look like after that? So you're going to meet like I met my part, and you're going to maybe get to the point, maybe not in the first session, but you might get to the point like I did where you are giving her a hug and you're saying, I love you. I love your sense of humor. What the good things you've brought to my life are like huge. Right. But you also kind of want to release her. Is that a little bit, right?
You're talking about like befriending your part. So like spending time, like Tam was saying earlier, like getting to know the story of these parts. The stories are really, really important. So that's like you just said, Jen, sometimes that can happen in one session. Like you get to know enough of a story that the part is willing to trust you. Sometimes it takes a long time. It can depend. It depends on that part and what their own experience has been. So that would be in the 6 F's. That would be befriending, getting to know their story, just staying present, asking them, talking with them the way you would a friend, the way you would someone you've met and you're getting to know. Who are you? How have you gotten to where you're at here? What do I need to know about you to really understand you?
Right. Like what made you feel unsafe that you needed to bring humor in the room? What was going on? Which then leads you into childhood memories, of course. Yep. And then you have to say, listen, but you don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. So for me, every part I've ever met has always been my first childhood home. I've not yet met any parts outside of that home. We always meet in the living room of that home, which I had a lot of childhood stuff. So that makes sense to me. Not everybody's going to always be in their childhood home, right? But I'm always in my childhood home. And so part of my process of healing has been to take that child from that home and bring them into this home.
Yeah.
So essentially what I'm doing is removing them from the situation they feel unsafe in, which was that home, and I'm bringing them here. I visualize myself taking them back to this home. Like that particular one, I let her curl up on my couch in this home with a little fuzzy blanket, things that make me feel good now as an adult. And that's it. I let her just rest. And then when I check in on her, sometimes the blanket's off. Sometimes she's now ready to sit up and, because essentially I figured out she really just wants to play and relax and use her humor in fun situations, right? Yeah. For good, not to hide feelings anymore, not to feel safe. She just wants to fucking play, right? And enjoy that part of her. So, then eventually she got to the point where it was like, I was visualizing building a swing set in my backyard for her so that she could go play. So that's what I'm talking about. This process is so healing because you take that part, you get to know them, and then you essentially heal them, which is you healing yourself.
Yes, right. It's like in the model, it's called a retrieval. When your parts are able to trust you enough, and it's like, it's relational, right? Like we have to remember it's really, really relational. So being patient. There's also, other than the 8 C's of self-energy, there are the 5 P's of self-energy, which are qualities like being patient, being playful, being persistent. You find a part, you're getting to know them. The persistence is like, I'm not leaving you behind here.
Right.
I know you're here now, but I can be patient. We can stay here as long as we need for enough understanding to come and enough trust to be developed so that the goal is to be able to retrieve these parts of us from where they've been stuck for so long.
And does it feel easier? It's been easier for me to meet and work through that process with a protector. Yeah. It was harder for an exile. Is that common?
Yeah, the exiles, like this is like that becomes like a whole unburdening process too. So those parts they don't have, it's not about a job that you're asking them not to do anymore. This is about being able to be with maybe some big and heavy emotions. It's a little more of like a true like healing journey, like staying with
those are trickier. Yeah. Cause I have met a lot of exiles, but one, she would not leave that house. Yeah. We had to really spend more time in the house together. And we even had to spend time on the porch. Yeah. It was a process to get out of that fucking house. Right? To get her on the porch, to get her it wasn't like a protector where I was like, girl, you're good. Let me show you where we live now. Right? Because we're good now. It was much deeper with the exiles. They are scared.
Yeah, they're the ones carrying. They're the ones
carrying
that
the
carry
load.
the wound. The
Yeah.
protectors are trying to keep them from overwhelming our systems, essentially. So the exile is carrying the burden. The protector is closing the gates so that the burden doesn't overwhelm the system. So when we get into enough relationship for these protectors to say, okay, I trust you now, self energy to be with this wounded element.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit.
It's a different process. Yeah. It feels, it's deeper work with those exiles.
Yeah.
So they sometimes, do you find they don't show up right away?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think
you got to probably soothe a few protectors because they're not letting you through, especially if you've got a firefighter standing in front of an exile. You got your work cut out for you. Yeah. I mean, and this is me not saying that I've met on my parts and worked anything out. This is a lifelong process. You don't just do 3 IFS sessions and you're good.
Lifestyle. It turns into a lifestyle.
Yeah. So post doing some IFS therapy looks like what? Because now you're going to stop as yourself and you're going to say, ooh, what am I feeling? Right? Like, what protector do I need? Do I need that protector right now, or can I handle this? I don't know. Is that part of the process, getting them all in check? What's it look like when you're integrating it into your everyday life?
I mean, I can think of a most recent example of a caretaker part that I've just discovered and recognizing what that looks like and feels like, which felt very normal in my life, but I've understood it differently now that she's a part. And so she comes up all the time. Actually, she doesn't really want another job. So in the moment, I am in a relationship with her that when I understand what's coming up and I'm like, okay, there you are. Mm-hmm. Okay, there you are. And then I make different choices. It becomes very simple. It's just your choices become different because she's not within you, right? She's not within me, because if I recognize her as a part, she's a part of me, but she's not self. So her voice, it almost becomes like her voice is different than your own. And you can recognize the language, the feeling, whatever it is that you're like, okay, there it is, there it is, there it is, there she is. And then I just am talking with her.
Because you
don't need to do that.
Essentially get in conversation with your part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, talking to yourself, but your part specifically.
Multitasking experience. You're just multitasking all day long. When your part is coming up, if you're working with a part, it is that. It is, okay, I feel you. You're not maybe saying it out loud, but you're saying it in your mind. Even with other people. You're in a conversation with 5 different people and you got a part that's activated. It's, I see you, I'm feeling you. I got this. We're all right. Let me hold your hand for a minute. You're all right. You're fine. We're fine. I'm fine. Trust me.
We don't have to fix this right now.
We don't have to manage the room. We don't have to do all the things that we thought we had to do.
That feels like a big part for almost every midlife woman. I think we probably all have a caretaker who feels the need to jump and push people out from the train before it hits them, who really is a controlling part, like wants to do this for this person. I'm going to do this. They didn't ask me to do it, but guess what? I think they need it. So I'm going to do it for them. Because I have that part too, where I want to fix things for everybody. Right. Yeah. So that feels like a part that probably most people are going to identify with because we've been caretakers for so long.
Yeah. I think for me, I would just even go a layer deeper. I've recognized with her just very like within the last couple of weeks, even her biggest fear, if she doesn't do her job, is that whoever she's trying to caretake will die.
Yep.
And that traces back to a very couple of old wounds of death in my family. Right. And if she doesn't do that job, that person's going to die. So
that's a huge fear.
It's huge. And so I have to work with her to let her know that because my husband doesn't take his supplements on time, he's not going to die tomorrow.
Right.
Like that is a fear of hers. And it's the craziest thing if you say it out loud, but that is her. And
that makes sense.
I'm like, no one's going to die. And if they are going to die, they're not going to die because you didn't make sure they did something.
Right. That's not on you.
And so it's a little unraveling in the moment.
Yes.
That's my current process.
Yeah. I think I love IFS because there's a plan. Yes. There's a plan. And I'm a planner. I think that's why sometimes in talk therapy, there's no plan. You're just a chatting, seeing what comes out that day, right? But you're not digging in to do work. right? You're the goal-oriented part of it where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to meet a part. We're going to talk. I'm going to get to know them. I'm going to embrace them. Like there's a process to it. I like
Yeah,
that about
there's
it.
a structure and like
There's a
there's a way
structure.
to like stay on the tracks. There's indications when, another part is popping in or when self energy is not online. There's enough information to indicate what's happening so we can stay on track,
And can I just share this story? Because I think it's very fun. I had a part last month or maybe a month and a half ago that was like, all right, I think I need to get back into therapy. Couldn't find an IFS therapist. And because they're all very booked out right now. Just like that's a thing. So learning it yourself is a big deal too. Anyway, I was able to get in to see a therapist who was a traditional, just a talk therapist. I went twice.
2 times, huh? Okay.
And it was a part of me that was like, you need to go talk to somebody. And so I spent 2 sessions talking about all of the things that I've already worked on.
Mm-hmm.
And I left and I was, honestly, it felt very it was self energy, but it was fierce. So I could have mistaken it for a part, but it wasn't. It was just self energy. You don't need to do this. This is not the path right now. This is not what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because of the experience of IFS, that it's self-led. It's a relationship you're building. You're not just going in and venting about something.
Right.
Rehashing the experiences you've had. This is a richer experience.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
And a soulful experience. For me, that is like, you want to live soulfully. You want to live in congruency with who you are as a spiritual essence in a human body. This lifetime. IFS is a beautiful and important, probably, for my opinion, a non-negotiable piece of that type of experience. It's so profound.
For sure. Yeah. And I can say that now because I've done some. I can tell you guys for sure now. I listened to all the things with the last episode. And I remember I told you guys, all right, I think I probably need to do this.
Yeah.
Along with other things. Oh, this is also good for preparation for things coming up in your life, like plant medicine journeys. Why did you guys choose to make sure that this was a part of the prep for like a medicine journey?
Well, it was actually part of the protocol for preparation with MDMA for that type of psychedelic assisted therapy. In the early 2000s, when these trials with psychedelics were, reemerging, some of the folks who were involved in these early 2000 studies, Michael and Annie Mithofer, they're a couple who, I think he's a psychiatrist and she's a nurse, but they were sitting for journeys. They were not utilizing IFS, but they were IFS trained. And what they identified was that during an MDMA assisted therapy session, people who had no knowledge of IFS were accessing parts, and they were starting to just, in that expanded state with MDMA, they were accessing self-energy and working with parts of themselves. And so those like fed the process then. So IFS became one of the protocol for particularly MDMA. And now it's just become like, I think it's really understood just how valuable it is to utilize in preparation and integration for expanded states. Because when we're in an expanded state of consciousness, you are more than likely going to meet some parts in there. And so to have a model to understand what is it that I'm experiencing here, and then how do I, when I'm not in that expanded state anymore, how do I, integrate that information back into my life? IFS is such a cool, like you said, it's like a structured model that you can plug things in and recognize what's happening then.
Yeah, I love it. And even if you have no future of doing any kind of like psychedelic journey, just the parts work can open the whole world up for you. Totally. I don't know. I've been converted, you guys, to IFS.
It's kind of an expanded state of its own.
I never even heard of this before I met you guys. Yeah. So I hope someone listening right now is like, oh, this feels like this could be for me. And you just said it's hard to find someone and get in with someone that specializes in IFS. Is there a process, a self-guided process that someone could start a little bit on their own? If you already have a meditation practice, could you go in with the intention of like a part?
Yeah, definitely. And I think someone could, if someone just wanted to like dip their toe in right now, maybe they're not even ready to find a therapist yet, but just want to dip your toe in and kind of to see what this feels like, it's actually rather easy to like go on YouTube and you could, just search like meditation for the 6 F's,
Okay.
meeting a part of myself. And there's lots of really valid folks putting material out there. I mean, Dick Schwartz has his own guided meditations that you can access on YouTube.
Okay. So we can do a little self work.
Yeah.
And then, when you're ready to dive in, you'll find a provider.
I think that's a nice way to dip your toe in. And also I've had folks who have come in to like actually begin a process and they've dipped their toe in, and then to sit with someone who's holding the space. It's a really different experience.
It's a different experience. No, you definitely want to find someone when you get to that point. Yeah. And if you're a therapist listening right now, how would one go about certifying and getting this into their practice?
So I'm actually an IFS informed therapist. When I first started my journey with IFS, it was when IFS was hitting the big time. It was impossible to get into a training. If you want to be certified, you have to start in a level 1 certification program. And I think I probably applied. It was like a lottery. It was just so...
Because there's not enough programs?
And people were just flocking to it.
Oh, okay.
So it was just really hard to get in. So I actually ended up starting my journey with becoming trained through, it's part of the IFS program. It's called The Circle, which was like a 6-month training program.
Okay.
And for me, I just really connected with it. I was working with an IFS therapist also, so I was able to take what I was learning, bring it there, and she was able to like really help me understand it more for myself, anchor it in more. In the land of therapy, we all believe we should have all of these certifications. And really, maybe for some things you do, fine. But I think with IFS, I think you can find trainings that will bring you in and start to help you, bring this into your toolkit.
Yeah, because it's just like another tool for a therapist too.
Yep. I loved The Circle though, because it really, it wasn't just like a weekend training or something. It was a 6-month, course.
It wasn't just a weekend continuing ed thing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But I think you can just go on like IFS Institute and look to see what's available right now if you wanted to get certified.
And you should probably experience it yourself too.
Yeah,
I mean, like you can't
make sure
IFS therapy someone else if you haven't done it yourself. Like
absolutely.
That doesn't seem legit.
Yeah.
No. I would walk away from that therapist. Yeah. Well, have you met your parts? No, that's not for me. I'm only interested in other people's parts. You're like, oh, this feels like our last session.
Exactly.
I don't trust that business at all. I'm weird about that. But so you guys, I just wanted to give you an introduction and get a little more into it, tell you a little bit about my experience. If this is resonating with you, you should go down this rabbit hole. You should start looking into it, look up these meditations, like get into it, start meeting your parts. And again, like I say all the time, this isn't fun work. All right. This is work. Like you're going to meet parts and you're going to have to learn to embrace them and love them and release them and heal them. It's work, but I mean, it's necessary. You cannot, like we talked about spiritually, you can't move forward until you release that energy, right? Until you move forward. And then just as a little teaser, this IFS therapy was in prep for a psilocybin journey that I have already taken, you guys. So I'm going to do an episode talking about that with you guys. This IFS led me that direction in my spiritual journey because, not that I need to tell you guys all of this, but I did promise you that you were riding shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. So I feel obligated to keep you in the loop. This didn't just happen yesterday, so I've had time to integrate, but I do want you guys to stay tuned for that episode because we'll talk a little bit more IFS in that because it was a part of my journey, right? So I am glad I did this prep work so that I knew what all these damn parts were talking about when I got in there. So anyway, I'm going to share not all, you don't deserve all my business, but I am going to share what I feel led to share with you guys. So Tam and Ange are going to be back because we're going to talk all about that because they were my sitters. They've been with me on this journey. Okay. I enlisted them on my team. So thanks for talking about IFS. And I hope that this is another thing for your tool chest. If this doesn't resonate with you, don't do it right now, right? All good. You might not be ready, but you also may have heard this and been like, I am so sick of talk therapy. This sounds good. And then you got to go this direction. You're going to let your intuition lead you where it needs to lead you. And if you're feeling a little blocked in your intuition, I think IFS could help unblock you.
because we got to get rid of this junk in our bodies so that we can have a clear vision of what's next for us on this little journey. And thank you both for coming back to talk about IFS.
Yeah,
You're
thanks,
welcome. I love it. I love it. See you guys next time.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have like 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. You know, the legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.